Trombone Champ became an internet sensation overnight by becoming the biggest trombone playing game to ever land on Steam's library. But how did it get here in the first place? Strap on as I reveal how it took someone over 12 years to pull off an independent game developer's biggest dream. Welcome to the Trombone channel. This is the history of Trombone Champ and its developer, Holy Wow Studios. If you want to support the creation of these videos, consider subscribing to my Patreon or buying any of my merch linked below. Holy Wow Studios is based in the Brooklyn area of New York City. Its only members are Dan and Jackie Pacito, but when it came to making Trombone Champ, Dan did almost all of the work. Contrary to what many might believe, Dan is not a trombonist. He grew up in Meridian, Connecticut, where he played the saxophone in high school. He then attended Quinnipiac University, literally just a 20-minute drive away from home, from 2002 to 2006, where he studied interactive digital design. While doing so, he met his eventual wife, who was studying the same thing. Right after college, he spent a year teaching English in Japan for the largest English teaching company in the country, Nova. After that, he became web designer for Crown Publishing Group in New York City, a subsidiary of Penguin Random House. After 4 years with the company in 2011, he became a freelance graphic designer for the testing company, The Princeton Review. After doing that for less than a year, he became the lead web designer of Photos Travel, a publisher of travel and tourism information. Dan worked there for 3 years before coming back to the umbrella of Penguin Random House by becoming their senior interactive designer, and then in 2019, he became their director of application design. On the side, Dan dabbles in wildlife photography, and in September 2015, he made the Brooklyn Bar Menu Generator, which randomly generates a menu of random food names. This blew up on Facebook and has since gotten over 57,000 likes. He and Jackie are also part of the podcast Combs Crew, where they talk about the actor Jeffrey Combs. Dan's musical talents also helped him make 5 songs for the hit game Skatebird. Their story begins in the mid to late 2000s, where they operated under the name 123 Blast On. The first games they made were the annual Something Awful Game Dev Challenge, but none of them were any successful. Something Awful is an internet forum that was popular from the late 2000s to early 2010s. It wouldn't be until 2010's Game Dev Challenge where they found success. The challenge involved 2 rules. You have all 30 days of July to make a game, and you have to follow a theme. The theme for that year's challenge was You Can't Blank. Dan and Jackie's idea was You Can't Stop Pooping, oh and that's the rocket that makes you fly, and as a result made Icarus Proud Bottom and the Curse of the Chocolate Fountain. Even though the game didn't win the competition, they tried bringing it to Xbox Live Indie Games, but couldn't do so because it had multiple violations of Microsoft's content approval system. Despite putting zero effort into promoting the game, including not having any social media to represent themselves as a studio, multiple outlets started writing about it 6 months later. Even the developers themselves couldn't understand why that happened. In later years, the game would get the attention of Duncan, Cinnamon Toast Ken, and most notably, PewDiePie.
Wow. The gameplay. Shitting and killing dogs. Oh man, I'm so happy right now.
Following the release of Chocolate Fountain, Dan and Jackie changed the name of their studio from 123 Blast On to Holy Wow Studios. The name Holy Wow comes from the first line of Chocolate Fountain, Holy Wow, I can't stop making boom booms out of my bottom. When thinking about ideas for their next game, they conceived of ideas about a game in outer space. They first had Star Gods in mind, where you play as a villainous duo in search of an asteroid field for a mythical superweapon. They started making that game, but later decided to put its development on hold since, quote, it was missing a certain something. Then they turned to Jackie and her love for Star Trek. In doing so, they conceived of Starship Captain, where you act as the director of a spaceship and give demands. Since they were more interested in that idea, they began its development, and not only that, make Icarus Proud Bottom a recurring character in it. The first thing Dan did was switch to using ActionScript 3 instead of 2 since it was newer. He also played around with how the game should look, settling on a non-pixelated format. But even before they finished that game, they decided to partake in the 2013 Something Awful Game Dev Challenge. The theme for that year's challenge was Subversive Edutainment. Dan took this opportunity to put together an idea he came up with several years prior, a humorous typing game. So for the month of July, having only downtime outside their full-time jobs, they successfully made Icarus Proud Bottom teach us typing. The success of Teach Us Typing was largely due to Dan's previous experience with Flash development that allowed the dynamic duo to get the game along much farther in their project than others would. The game caught the attention of Something Awful's forum members who spread the word about the game enough to get the attention of several news outlets including Kotaku, MTV, and many others. The considerable success of Teach Us Typing caused Holywell to make a sequel to it and put Starship Captain on hold. The original idea for the sequel was named Teach Us Typing in Time, where he'd time travel to the Shakespearean times of the 1500s and type in Old English. They thought this idea was boring, so they scrapped it. They then watched Twin Peaks on Netflix, which is a murder mystery whodunit, so they decided to make the plot of the sequel in that manner by also bringing in the characters from Starship Captain. This was also a time when episodic games were becoming a thing, such as Telltale's The Walking Dead and Double Fine's Broken Age, so Holywell settled on a 5-stage, 5-week-long release. On March 6, 2014, Holywell released Typing Weekly. Compared to the success of Teach Us Typing, Typing Weekly did not perform as well. They said they should have called the series Icarus Proud Bottom is Dead as opposed to Typing Weekly because it sounded more compelling. Second, they said going episodic didn't produce the effects they intended. People lost interest over time. Not everyone played every week, which made it confusing for some to come back to Part 3 when you never even played Part 2. They also felt the quality of the story was inconsistent as well. Third, people wished that as a detective that you had more freedom to walk around as opposed to just typing words on a screen. That's because Teach Us Typing was a linear style game while Typing Weekly was non-linear. As Dan put it, we built the game for the engine, as opposed to building the engine to match the game. Fourth, because it was an episodic release, it became very difficult to get any news outlets to write about the game after the first week. The fifth problem was that they underestimated how long it would take to make Typing Weekly, and originally planned for a release date in the fall of 2013. That, paired with several bouts of procrastination, caused frustration and the game to not come out until March of next year. This led to the last problem. Because they released Typing Weekly on the same week Dark Souls 2 and Titanfall were coming out, their release was overshadowed by bigger companies. In general, while they tried to capitalize on the success of Teach Us Typing, their efforts put into the sequel fell well short of the game's potential, but despite that, some good came from it. PC Gamer later listed it as one of the top 100 best 3 online games for PC. After they finished Typing Weekly, they resumed work on Starship Captain with the plan to release it in about a year and a half. On May 23, 2014, they announced a Kickstarter for Starship Captain with the goal of raising $50,000. The reason for the Kickstarter was because Holywell had ambitious plans for the game. They wanted to develop it on a full-time basis and use actual voice talent as opposed to on-screen text. Kickstarter was also pretty popular at this time for funding independent game developers.
I, Icarus Proud Bottom, continue our daring mission aboard the IBS Sea Pickle, along with my brave crew. Jerry.
Sensors are detecting a massive surge of gaseous particles filling the bridge.
Actually, that was
Mark 22.
Firing torpedoes and lasers.
Whoa, wait, what are you firing at?
I don't know.
Anyways, our mission, to explore brave new stars, to probe deeply into the darkest holes of the universe, to go where others have deliberately decided not to go.
In our culture, we suppress all emotions.
And replace them with logic.
No, with beer. Which race do you represent?
Humans of planet Earth.
Ah, humans. Inventors of the India Pale Ale.
Icarus, the fate of the universe depends upon the survival of your ship.
That's not good. Is there some way it can, depend on yours instead?
No?
Unfortunately for Starship Captain, the Kickstarter only managed to raise a little over $10,000, and so on June 12, 2014, the Kickstarter was cancelled and Starship Captain was abandoned. They later admitted in a press release that they were really bad at marketing and publicity. The game was far too early in development, and as a result pitched the game as 99% movie, 1% gameplay. They didn't get nearly enough press despite reaching out everywhere, and as a result of the Kickstarter's failure, they had to sell everything they bought that would have been rewards for supporting the game. For the 2014 Something Awful Game Dev Challenge, Holywell decided not to make a game except reviewed the submissions in a livestream with friends on August 9th. For the rest of 2014, nothing really happened except for a press release on December 28th. The big announcement was that they were working on a bundle of all the games they've made, as well as a new game in the works called Typing Party. The plan for Typing Party was to be able to compete with up to 8 other players on the same hardware. They also mentioned that they're working on a party game for mobile phones and tablets. But despite claiming how 2015 was going to be a big year for the studio, the only thing HolyWow did was participate in that year's Something Awful Game Dev Challenge. The result of that challenge was Hypercosmo, which is described as pool on acid. It wouldn't be until the spring of 2016 when HolyWow's Typing Party was accepted as a participant of Indiecade East in New York City on April 30th. The only contingency was that the game be in the form of an arcade cabinet. HolyWow actually made a version of this game 2 years prior, but it was much smaller at the time. At the event on April 30th, they held a typing tournament. The winner ended up being a guy named Tino, a longtime fan of the studio. After that event, the studio went dead silent for about a year and a half. It wasn't until November 6, 2017 when they launched the Kickstarter for the mobile website game, Knights of Murder. It's described as a party game that generates an infinite number of randomized murder mysteries that you can solve with your friends. The goal of the Kickstarter was $5,000, with the hopes that it would fund the development of a mobile app. They only raised $600 and shut down the Kickstarter a month later. The last mention of the game was a call for playtesters on April 30th, 2018. The studio then went dead silent for yet another year and a half. It wasn't until October 4th, 2019 when they announced that their Typing Party arcade machine was now playable at Wonderville in Brooklyn, New York City. Wonderville, which opened earlier that year, is a mix of a bar and arcade featuring exclusively independent games.
Our favorite game is Typing Party. I would say it's kind of like a secretary's favorite game in a way.
HolyWow, seeking a downloadable version of Typing Party, had to use an alternative to the Adobe Flash Player since it was nearing the end of its life cycle. That alternative was itch.io, a large website of independently developed games. On October 22nd, HolyWow hosted a typing tournament at Wonderville, the winner of which was Alex. On November 12th, John Walker from Kotaku dropped an article about the game and described it as, without doubt, the funniest multiplayer competitive typing party game ever made. Wonderville then shut down for 8 months in 2020 due to the pandemic, but thanks to a lot of fundraising from the community, Wonderville is now back on its feet and has been open ever since. And with all that out of the way, we can finally start talking about the history of Trombone Champ. But in order to do that, we actually have to go way back to the summer of 2018. It was then when Dan became fascinated with the use of physical controls to play arcade games. He then pondered the use of a physical controller to play a Guitar Hero style game, and what better way to do that than with a trombone. On July 20th, 2018, Dan Vecchito posted this video onto his personal Twitter account. The tweet blew up and people instantly saw the potential. His wife Jackie quote tweeted, "It's been nothing but trombone noises in our apartment while my husband develops this game. Send help! Send help!" 2 days later, Dan shared a video of one of the earliest iterations of the game's intro with the hashtag Trombone Champion. Then on July 28th, Dan posted this video with the first ever iteration of the game's official name, Trombone Champ.
Damn, son, where'd you find this? Damn, son, where'd you find
Dan never ended up making the game as an arcade cabinet and instead just worked on an app for Steam for the first time. It wouldn't be until 2 years later on August 28th, 2020 when the game was announced, except this time without a Kickstarter. That was because game developers at this time were known to use it for funding the release of a game. I don't know, maybe we should call it Kick Finisher or something. Following the release of the trailer, several quickly pointed out how the character was holding the trombone completely wrong. After buying a P-bone for himself, Dan then learned how to hold a trombone and fixed the animation. On November 26, 2021, John Walker published an article highlighting 25 different indie games in development and not only included Trombone Champ, but also predicted it to be 2022's Game of the Year. Playtesting of the game began on July 31st, 2022. The very next day, a fan of Holy Wow Studios was watching Lyric on Twitch, who is one of the biggest streamers in the world. The fan then posted a link in the chat to Trombone Champ, and he proceeded to play it.
What the fuck? Oh shit. Dude, don't rape me. Oh my god, a bee! What the fuck? What the fuck? Jeez. What the fuck? I'm sorry, it needs to happen. Wait! Oh shit! PB! PB! Yes! Yes! Oh my god!
The reaction from the viewers, as well as Lyric himself, was overwhelmingly positive. The funniest joke in the world was no longer the funniest joke in the world. This game proved to be so lethal that you'd die laughing in 2 seconds. The only problem was that when he posted the playthrough on YouTube, the thumbnail contained a trumpet. Then on August 6th, the playtest week ended. In the next month and a half leading up to the game's release, Dan made several changes. These changes included adding a latency tool so you could time your notes right, a feature that let you know how well you played every note in the play header, an FAQ section, and a free play mode. On Thursday night, September 15th, just before 11 o'clock p.m., after over 4 years since the original videos were posted, Dan Vichito finally released Trombone Champ.
始まります。なんだなんだあ、これだちょっと待ってマウスが待ってあ、マウス逆だ
All right. Hey! Oh my god! Almost. You actually make music. You should be able to do this.
Do slides and shit. Oh my. Yeah. that one note.
This is nasty.
Look, confetti's back. Building the confidence of the audience. Stop it. That was just a stylish vibrato.
Yeah, we can't play 16th notes on a real trombone either.
It caught the attention of millions. Gamers all over the world loved it. It received coverage from news outlets everywhere. PC Gamer confirmed its Game of the Year status. Dozens of playthroughs on YouTube boast review counts of 6 and even up to 7 figures. Even though Trombone Champ was only intended for PC, others claimed it also works on the Steam Deck. And while you can't officially play Trombone Champ by actually playing a trombone, several modders figured out how to pull it off. As time went on, Dan put out several updates to the game, including adding more tracks, controls, accessibility features, and other fixes. Right now, Dan is currently working with the modding community to further improve the game, and thanks to the massive financial success of Trombone Champ, Dan is now able to finally be an independent game developer on a full-time basis. But what makes the game different than Guitar Hero, Dance Dance Revolution, or any other WASD game? The main difference is that in those games, you hit notes, and in Trombone Champ, you can hit any pitch between any note, just like on an actual trombone where you can move the slide between any note. That alone sold the game to many players around the world. Why? Well, it's hilarious when you get it wrong. People usually look down on bad instrument playing. No one likes playing the recorder in elementary school. No one likes getting kill streaked on Halo or Call of Duty. But Trombone Champ is one of those rare gems where you can have a good time playing the game as well as sucking. It reminds us all that playing games should not be just about trying to win, but rather having a good time. Special thanks to Dan Vecchito for speaking with me and helping me out with researching the history of Trombone Champ and Holy Wow Studios. And if you're looking for a graphic designer, marketer, or 3D animator, reach out to Jackie Vecchito and she will help you out. If you guys enjoyed this video, be sure to hit the like button and subscribe for more trombone history videos coming soon.